fans, you open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
Hump Day, folks. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and I'm also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Mr. Michael Liebowitz. We also have Ziggy roaming around underneath the desk. Lights could go out. Microphones.
I thought he was leaving.
He is later on today. I have to take him. I have to take them to the airport later on today. But for now, he's a predatory presence beneath the desk. Anything is possible. Forgive me for any technical difficulties that happen as a result of him. But Michael, you helm this amazing channel called The Rational Alternative. Tell us what's going on with this damn thing, will you?
Well, we got a lot going on. Of course, we have this every day, noon Eastern time, 9 Pacific. Megan Ribbons and I have our show that we do on Science, Saturdays at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Science, yeah. Mostly she talks about science, and I sit there like a jabroni.
I think yesterday you talked about Andrew Wilson debating Candace Owens. That is not the same Andrew Wilson who is the actor brother of Owen. No. What?
No, I don't think he has a brother, Andrew. His
he
brother
doesn't.
Is Luke.
Yeah, Luke Wilson, man.
Luke
was
Wilson,
that a joke?
Yes. I don't know. Maybe. Could be. You never know.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, we do a lot over here. I don't have a new episode out today, but I've got some good ones coming down the pike. You know, I had a very interesting experience yesterday. Oh, by the way, super chats and super stickers are greatly appreciated.
Yeah, please give those out liberally if you can, because it makes Michael smile. Oh,
Ian says there's a third brother, Andrew. Oh, all right. I don't think that's it's not that Andrew. Okay. So I'm not going to name the author because it's, whatever, but I'll just tell you this. So while I was in prison, there was an author whose books I read had a pretty good impact on me, helped me with my thinking. And when I got out and I started a podcast, I thought this guy would be great to interview, right? This guy would be phenomenal to interview, but I could not find his email anywhere. So I just gave up on it. Now, I gave up on it like 2 years ago. So yesterday, I was out with Diana and her mother at, I don't know what the hell you'd call it. I guess a department store. I don't know. But anyways, I look through my emails, and I've got an email from this guy. Out of nowhere. I didn't reach out to him, nothing. And he just wanted to tell me what a good job he thought I did in a debate that I had like 2 years ago. So he must have just saw it. And I'm just like, wow. I was just like overwhelmed. So Brent called me last night and I told him about it. And Brent was blown away too. It's so surreal. Because when you're in prison and you're reading books, I mean, the people really exist, but it's like they don't, right? They're out there somewhere. They're these famous, untouchable people. You know what I mean? And then when you're interacting with them and interviewing them, it's quite the experience.
You know what they call that, Michael?
I have no idea.
Jumping the shark.
Oh, you got to stop. Next thing I know, people are going to be telling me, Mike,
thanks for posting. Thanks for posting, by the way, that scene where that came from. I actually do remember that. And it's been to me. You texted it to me. And it's
not posting.
That's posting. Sure. It's posting to me.
No,
personally.
It's not.
So
that's texting.
So I actually do remember that scene from ages ago. I haven't seen that thing in probably 40 years or more. And yet I remembered that scene. And he did wear his leather jacket. See, I knew it.
He did.
So, Michael, we got a lot to talk about today. Republicans and data centers. Did you want to just go straight down the line? Because this is some of the most disturbing. This is really disturbing to me. Since the Republicans have been, especially the Trump administration, have been really advocating for data centers. They've been really advocating for AI. Now, possibly for some of the wrong reasons, of course. They're in competition with China, and they want to beat China. This doesn't have anything to do with human progress as much as it does national pride. But these AI is really the wave of the future. It's a new revolution. And as impactful, if not more impactful, than the Industrial Revolution. And yet now, people are so afraid from all the propaganda of data centers that the water they use, the energy that they absorb. There's now a massive populist movement against it that the Democrats are jumping on, and now it's becoming politically unfeasible for the Republicans to maintain their advocacy for data centers. And so now they're starting to turn against them. All right. Michael, I'm afraid that AI and data centers may go the way of nuclear power. I mean, remember, nuclear power was coming up in the 60s and the 70s. It was the new thing. It was going to be an amazing advancement. Of course, it still is in technology and energy. And yet the environmental movement derailed it completely and made it illegal around most of the United States. You remember the China syndrome? You remember that movie coming out from Jane Fonda?
I tried to watch it. It was so horrible.
It's so ridiculous, but you know, I remember that movie being very impactful in the anti-nuclear movement, right? I mean, people were hysterical about nuclear power. They're starting to come out of it now 50 years later and realizing that this is probably really the way forward. I hope this doesn't happen to AI and data centers, man. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess Republicans are, it's looking like there's grassroots movements against these people, and they're, you know, they're going to do probably what politicians do, and Cower and Dem certainly want to make a big issue out of this. And Republicans don't want to lose elections. The tech companies are scurrying to try to, you know, shift the sort of mood or shift public opinion. I was looking into this today. You know, there's the concerns. Let's try to steelman the case against these data centers a little bit. Okay,
right.
Can we do that?
Sure.
Are you paying attention to me?
I'm listening to you. Unlike you. When I'm talking,
not listening.
You're on your phone.
I'm not listening to me.
On your phone, you're on your phone when I'm talking. No, I'm talking about.
I've got to do. I'm
always listening to you. I'm always listening to you, even though I have a dog who is violently attacking me as we speak. Look at that. He's got my wrist.
You make it sound like I'm scrolling through kitty videos on the phone. I'm looking things up to help us with the program.
Yeah, but while you're doing that, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying.
I am. I hear you. I know what you're saying.
Okay. So steelman it, man. Steelman it.
Okay. So evidently these things generate an awful lot of heat. So they require a lot of water for cooling down. And in areas that are subject to frequent droughts, this could be a problem. Also, they require a lot of electricity. So what happens when somebody comes in and buys up a lot of electricity? The demand goes up, so does the price. But it doesn't just go up for that person or that group. It goes up for the people in the surrounding communities. And of course, there's also I don't even like to include it because I think it's ridiculous, but the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint and all
because
that
of the demand.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to, okay.
Right. But okay. Part of the argument is the jobs, it's also going to lead to job loss that people don't want because of the AI. People are going to be displaced by that. So that's another negative that they don't want. It offers temporary employment for people building them, but that goes away in a short period of time. And the jobs there are very, high tech and specialized, I should say. Now, the economic benefits, right, are, well, AI gets to grow, and AI is absolutely an amazing tool. It's going to lead to probably medical advances, improvements in movies, well, whatever. I mean, there's an abundance of things that AI can improve. It helps with editing. It spreads knowledge very quickly. It's an awesome tool for research. And it will also, in addition to laying people off, there's jobs that we don't even know about yet that will ultimately come into being, right? And the cat is kind of out of the bag with progress. You don't want to put it back in. Okay, now I want to address something specifically, Mark, and it's, well, two things specifically, if I may. Are you here?
I am here, but I'm being violently attacked.
Okay.
He's biting. He bites hard. I just want to let you know.
The dog does not bite hard, and Ziggy doesn't care about data centers. So anyways, first of all, if one person, group of people, whatever, has the money to buy a lot of electricity and that drives up the price, so what? That's the way I feel about it. If it's their property that they buy, this land, if they buy the land, they have the right to use the land as they want. And if they need electricity for that land, they have the right to pay for it because they can. It's not their responsibility to make sure that other people's price does not go up. And by the way, you mentioned nuclear earlier. Everybody's so concerned about the price of electricity going up. Well, okay, well, how about let's get some nuclear power plants going?
Which is
Right?
precisely what these companies are advocating for: modular nuclear power plants that are, I think, they're on the fast track to be approved by the Trump administration. They've already approved 10 of them, I think, so far. And this would be a boom to the energy industry. The prices will go down once you have a endless supply of energy, right? Instead of what we've done in California, which is make energy more scarce with renewables and taking fossils offline and taking nuclear energy offline.
Now, one thing, Mark, I will say is Jim Valiant says, if only we had a free market in electricity and energy generally. Yes, that's the goal. But it's always when you have these discussions, you end up kind of playing a whack-a-mole type of scenario. Let me use immigration as sort of an analogy, right? We want to have relatively open borders, free movement between borders, where people can travel, they can trade, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But then the argument comes in, okay, but we have the welfare state, so you don't want them getting on welfare. So then you end up having to, so what do you do? Because we have big government over here, we have to have big government over here. And it's a similar dynamic. Because it's not a free market, yes, energy prices will go up for the people in the surrounding communities. But the answer to that is deregulating, not to proscribe data centers, right? You don't want to prohibit data centers from being built. You want free energy. So you end up arguing for privatization of damn near everything. And then someone's going to tell you you're just a utopian. But I'm of the mind that we need to move in the direction of freedom, of free markets, every chance that we get. We don't want to enlist more government intrusions to nullify or ameliorate the problems of earlier government intrusions. So in these cases, yes, if somebody tells me, well, the government's going to subsidize them with federal loans or whatever, and I don't know that that's the case. I'm just saying I'd be opposed to that. Don't do that, right? But every step should be towards freedom. And you simply cannot or ought not violate the property rights of people, stop progress that's going to benefit millions because people in a community don't want their electricity to go up, or they don't want to hear humming or whatever other noise comes from these things. I get it. It's inconvenient. Guess what? A lot of things in life are inconvenient, but we have to keep our eyes on the prize. Think long term. Because ultimately, the very people who are opposing it will benefit in the long run.
Yeah, but they can't see that, Michael. For them, that progress is an abstraction. Right now, what's immediate and what the populists like to play off of is their fear of the unknown. That's primarily what this is. We can talk about energy. We can talk about water use, land use, because, the warehouses are big. Well, how big are solar farms, for Christ's sake? Solar farms take up miles and miles and miles of ecosystem. How big are these wind farms, these eyesores that spread across 7 or 8 miles of land? And here they are talking about, well, these warehouses are a few thousand square feet. Well, okay, but that's not really the issue, Michael. The issue is fear of progress. The issue is fear of what this new technology is going to do. It's going to unseat everything we're comfortable with, right? It's that divine right of stagnation. People don't want to move forward because they are afraid of what they cannot see. And right, they can't see all the amazing things that this technology is going to bring to them, all the jobs that it's going to actually deliver, how productive it's going to make each and every individual, and how much potential there is in that for great innovation and jobs that you couldn't even imagine. right now.
Yes.
It's an abstraction. So right now they know their fear.
Well, if you anybody out there that can get their hands on it, or if you already have it, I highly recommend reading Nathaniel Branden's essay in The Virtue of Selfishness called "The Divine Right of Stagnation." People like what's comfortable. They like what is. They like the status quo. And I'm speaking generally, not all people, obviously, but enough people that it becomes an impediment to progress. Right? Somebody said in the comments, Jason Adams, and I'm pretty sure he's being sarcastic. He says that people invest their life and pay taxes to keep city at a certain population and have X many parks, keep their utilities fairly decided by a commission. Yes, that's what happens is people they think that they have a right to the type of community that they live in. That this is my right now. I was here, so now I have the right to use government force to prohibit others from moving into this neighborhood, from living their lives, from pursuing their dreams. No, I'm sorry, you don't. By the way, I wanted to tell you, you were right about something. Not that I was wrong, but the other day you made a comment. We were talking about these idiotic flock cameras, and you said people on the right want they're more prone to support these or some such thing. And somebody came in and said, "Oh, idiots, you can't, this is not a left-right issue, blah, blah, blah." So I looked into it a little bit, and it turns out that Republican politicians are more likely to support flock cameras than are their Democratic counterparts.
Yes, because they put it under the law enforcement umbrella, Michael. There's part of their platform as conservatives is we want law and order, and we want to be able to solve crimes, and we support the police department. That's fine. I get that. I support the police department too, but they
do
they do it to. I do, of course. I like.
How much
I
money
like
do you give to them?
I like the police. I
Do
don't
you
know.
give 'em a
My
lot of
taxes,
money?
my taxes pay for it, so I'm sure.
No. That's not enough. That's taken. I mean, out of generosity, do you go down there and throw them some cash?
I used to be a member of one of the police support unions. Yeah, so I used to donate to them regularly. I don't do it anymore, but I used to. Partly, I did it, Michael, because when you had that sticker on your bumper, a policeman saw it, and they tended to leave you alone because they knew you were supporting one of their primary charities. It was like the Police Protective League or something like that I was a member of for a while, and then I stopped. So I was doing it out
So
of
basically you were bribing them.
Yes, but Michael, but what I'm saying is that the right is willing to subvert the Constitution in order to, project their pro-law enforcement profile. I'm not. I don't want to subvert the Constitution for that. I love the police so long as they're protecting me, my life, my property from the bad guys. They're great, but to the extent that they can have extra constitutional powers to do bad things to people, nope, not a fan.
So when it talks about that these tech companies are, they want to put forth a campaign to overcome the tendency or the propaganda that's out there against these data centers. My concern, Mark, with this is their arguments are likely to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Altruistic.
Yes, altruistic. Thank you. I couldn't. I lost it. I lost it. Yes, is that they're going to be arguing, no. We're not doing it for profit. We're doing it for you. While it's inevitably true that these AI data centers will benefit all, or at least the vast majority of us, that's not why tech companies should be doing it. Right? They should not be in business to benefit me. And once you get into the habit of making the argument that, well, we should be able to build these things on our private property because it's going to benefit you. Well, now you're giving your neighbors, in essence, the say-so over what you do with your own stuff. Not a fan of that.
Yeah, but Michael, you sound like such a jerk off. If you were to say something like that, then people would not be inclined to vote for these AI centers. If you just say, "Don't tread on me, dude. My property is my property. You can't tell me what to do with it." People are going to get real pissed. Remember, this is
No,
a
but
populist world we live in right now.
well, that's what we're trying to overcome with this show. Is we're trying to overcome populism. Ultimately, as I posted to somewhere this morning, rational egoism is the cure to an irrational culture.
I love that. And James Valiant says the only noble motive here is profit. That's true, man. What does
Yes.
profit mean? You know, the line out there that the politicians like to claim exists is that, you know, there's profits and then there's people, and somehow those interests are separate, and they're not.
Oh my God, you're putting profits over people. I hate that's the dumbest.
That's the
line.
worst. It's the worst thing in the world, Michael. But it's a bromide that sells to the population who aren't reading Hayek. They're not reading Hazlitt. They're not reading economists that have
Hazlitt.
They're not Hazlitt. They're not reading. They're not reading the folks that all of us, I'm presuming, on the chat have read, and so for them this bromide really rings to them. But profits are inseparable from people. That means that somebody is creating a value so successfully that they're able to, you know, continue to do it, and they're able to continue to thrive. Why? Because you want it. And you are willing to separate yourself from your cash because you desire that value more than the dollar in your pocket. So both people are profiting. It's not just that the corporation profits, Michael. You profit. I profit from getting my iPhone, right? Apple is, you know, $1,000 richer, and I have all the wealth that my iPhone gives me, my contacts, my AI, and my ability to surf the web, my ability to, use social media. All of that stuff enriches my life in ways that could probably pay off down the line materially, but right now it's one of those non-material profits, but it's still it's good. It makes me happy.
Yes, well, that's what the economist Murray Rothbard said, or called psychic profit.
Rothbard,
yes.
Rothbard.
Yeah. Oh, Rothbard. What the? I was going to ask a question. Oh, everybody. So, first of all, if you're joining us from X, please join our channel. This is the Rational Alternative channel. This is the Capitalist Corner, the show, but the show is on the channel. I said that very clunky, but I sent Mark this morning.
You want to try again? Wait, I want to say point out what Ian says here. Recently, he's been thinking that the basic conflict is between win-win people and win-lose people. It's true. It's true, Michael. All of these people have a win-lose mentality, right? Our current occupant in the White House thinks that he can only win if he makes others lose, as opposed to the trader principle where everybody wins.
Yeah, I was in the middle of something.
Yeah, I know, and I interrupted you on purpose because it was bad.
No, it wasn't, because I was going to tell everybody. I wanted to know from the audience if they ever heard of this guy, Ren. This morning, I sent Mark the video, Hi, Ren. I sent it to him a few hours ago, and he just decided to listen to it as we were coming on the air. But nevertheless, I am curious what the audience thinks of Ren. I think Ren is sick, phenomenal. So, I don't know. Akira Felix said I said something that sounds wrong. Tell me what it is. What's next? Do I have something I need to say to you? Was there something? I feel like there. Oh, yes, there is. I want to show you something, Mark. This isn't in the headlines, but I just read this here as I'm doing my research that you've assigned to me. I wanted to share this. For years, politicians in Washington, D.C. have been running up the federal debt, not least through borrowing vast amounts for bailouts and stimulus packages during crises between 2007 and 2022. So we're talking a 15-year period. Federal debt held by the public surged from $4.6 trillion to $24 trillion. But this is what stuck with me. That number is bad enough. But that propelled debt from 36% relative to gross domestic product to 96%, the highest level since World War II. Eek.
That's incredible, Michael. And guess what? There doesn't appear to be any will from the politicians to stop spending our money, borrowing and printing, and driving us further into debt, Michael. There's no incentive. I mean, Trump's budget, I think, is bigger than any president previously. What is it now? $6 trillion, $7 trillion this jagoff wants to spend. Thank
How do
you.
I share?
Thank you, Jerry, for that $10 super sticker. Michael, does that make you smile? Jerry gave you a
It
$10
does.
super
It
sticker.
does. It does. It does. It does. Where's it going? I want to get it up there. The problem is, I'm getting a text message from our media person about a phone number that she wants, so I gotta get that to her.
Yeah, James
ASAP.
Valiant says we're fucked. I can't help but think that, my friend. We are fucked, Michael, because in order to start turning this debt away and start
Okay.
working in the black, which will take decades upon decades, we have to stop government spending, and there's no political will to do it. You literally have to stop the welfare state. You just have to stop it. You have to privatize Social Security. You have to. You have to take the public schools off the books. You have to. You have to do all this stuff if you don't want to go under and become a debtor nation and reverse all of the progress that the Industrial Revolution, the technological revolution has given us over the past few decades, because that's possible. It's possible.
I love this from Greg Doherty. He says Rothbard has a lot of good material. If we can't quote those who are flawed, we cannot quote much of anyone. Yes,
True.
yes, and yes, and yes, and yes.
Amen. Good one. Yeah.
Right. So I agree with that 100%. And by the way, Rothbard's Man, Economy, and State is an economic masterpiece. So Bonnie Bertrand says, first you have to deregulate. What do you think about that? First you have to deregulate.
Sure, but you have to do it seriously. Trump is doing it a little bit. He's doing it here and there. He's been defanging the EPA, which is actually a good thing. He's been trying to get state and local regulators to enable construction to happen in their regions. That's a good thing. But he offsets it with all the other statist policies that he has, unfortunately. He directly cancels that stuff out. And it doesn't necessarily, I mean, what do you think of this, Michael? And when you're claiming deregulation is a good thing while using it in other ways, to hobble industries that you don't agree with or have political issues with, you're not making a great case for the virtue of deregulation.
No, I think that I want to move toward a free society, right? And I want to do so in a way that is smart. I don't know the exact policies that should be implemented at every step. I would be inclined to, if you had a guy in office or a gal in office who came and said, my goal is freedom, and put forth a plan, I don't know that I would be insistent. For instance, if the person said, we're going to cut spending and cut taxes, I don't know that I would say, well, no, you have to deregulate first. Right? I don't know. I'm open to the argument. Don't get me wrong. If somebody could show me, no, this is a better plan than this way or some such thing. But in general, I just want to move toward a free society. And I want somebody in office whose plan that is. We want to get to freedom.
I mean, DOGE could have been a step in that direction. And it turned out that the political heat was too much for them. And they went from taking $2 trillion of superfluous spending out to $16 billion. I mean, that is such an incredible fall from grace, Michael. I can't even tell you. It's like they had the right idea, and that there was great potential in something like that to really streamline. Of course, it wasn't based on a premise that the government shouldn't be in these areas at all. It was based on streamlining and making government more efficient. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. The government has its lane, and it has to stay in its lane. I don't want to make it more efficient of it outside of its lane, doing things it's not constitutionally enabled to do. Michael, empowered. It has to be empowered by the Constitution, or it's out. It's out. And no. DOGE didn't do that.
No. It certainly did not. So.
Which is why they had to walk back $2 trillion all the way to $16 billion.
Ian Gilmore says, LOL, no, DOGE was always going to be a disaster. The issue is not efficiency.
Right. As I said, it isn't. But who said that?
Ian Gilmore.
Ian, did you have any hope at all in the beginning when you heard about the DOGE committee? Did you have any hope at all, like even just a scintilla, that it might start the ball? You didn't? I thought that I was hoping that it would start the ball rolling in the right direction because they talked big.
No, it's funny. I came across a Facebook post yesterday that was from a year and a half ago or so. And the post said, I apologize to MAGA. I never thought Trump would be this good. And it went through all these things that he was supposed to be doing. And of course, none of them came to fruition. So Megan says we probably need to cut taxes last in order to get out of the red.
You can't cut taxes right now, Michael. You have to cut the spending. You have to cut spending first.
Well, that's what I was going to say, but you could do them simultaneously. You don't have to wait to cut taxes before you cut spending.
Well, you'd have to figure out. I mean, I would prefer just to bring it down to a flat tax, eliminate the IRS, and then if everybody pays that, if you have millions, like 40% of the population not paying taxes right now, and you bring them into the fold with a flat tax, that would probably increase revenues. If you're decreasing spending in a commensurate way, I don't mind lowering taxes in that respect. But otherwise, you do what the Republicans do, which is you keep raising the spending limits, you keep spending more, right. You're taking in less revenue.
Well, in the book, The Age of Turbulence, the Alan Greenspan's book, written in 2000, I believe, 8, he talked about meeting Jack Kemp when Jack Kemp was, I think he was, I don't know, maybe he was in Congress. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But Jack Kemp was a famous supply sider, the Laffer curve, cut taxes, raise revenues. And he said, Jack Kemp said to him, why should we let the Democrats get away with promising goodies to everybody? Why can't we do it too if we can cut taxes and raise revenues? And so in that respect, I agree. I don't think that you want to count on cutting taxes and raising revenues and just never cut spending. All I'm saying is that I don't think, and I'm not making this as a hard and fast rule. I'm just saying that any step that gets the government to hell out of people's lives, I'm all for. But I want it to be part of a plan toward a free society, not just something for show. Because you're right. If all they do is cut taxes today and do nothing else, well, it's not going to really help anybody in the long run.
Akira Felix said something I want to address here. Mark is the guy who gets spooked by a doll. Keep that in mind.
Yes.
So I guess my very short-lived hope that DOGE would actually, help to deregulate Washington was in the same vein, Michael, as my respect.
Both irrational.
My respect for a cursed doll named Annabelle who can kill you if you touch it.
Yes. Both irrational. I have a picture of Annabelle, and I've actually had people say, don't show me that picture.
Are you get out of here?
Yeah.
You serious?
They don't want to even see it. They don't even want to see the picture. They're scared of it.
I'm not scared of it.
You were scared of it.
Terrified.
Yeah, this atheist admits at dinner that he's afraid of a doll. I couldn't believe it.
Hey, dolls are creepy, man. Dolls are creepy. Did I tell you that I used to go over to dinner to my neighbor's house, and he'd make dinner for me. We'd watch the fights, and he had a freaking clown doll sitting up on his windowsill. I wouldn't sit down until he removed the clown doll. I'm like, get that fucking clown doll out of here. Get it out.
Speaking of clown dolls, down in Florida, there was they're going for Marco Rubio's abandoned or empty, whatever it's called,
nice
Senate
segue.
seat. I do that well. So anyways, somebody's got to keep us focused over here. But anyways, so it was Alexander Vindman, and I don't know how many of you remember him. He testified about the Trump phone call, if I'm not mistaken, that took place, and Trump was being impeached and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, he's one of the people that's running or was running. Let me find it. I just want to make sure that I get it. I want to get the woman's name correct. I don't want to butcher it, not butch it. You butcher.
Are you talking about Angie Nixon?
Angie Nixon, yes. So Angie Nixon edged out Alexander Vindman, and
she didn't edge him out.
Campaign. No, she smoked his boots. But the funny thing, that's what it says here. That's the headline I'm reading. But anyways, she smoked his boots. She was supposed to lose. He actually outraised everybody, which gives to lie to the idea that you need a lot of money to win. But this woman, she's your typical Democratic Socialist. And she won the primary. Probably not going to win the general. I don't think she'll win the general. But nevertheless, the Democratic Socialist, she was supported by Maxwell Frost, the Democrat from Florida, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib.
A rogues gallery, Michael. A rogues gallery.
Yes, a rogues gallery. So what do you think about that?
Well, it seems like the socialists, the Democrats, the rank and file, the people who are voting in the primaries are probably the more extreme elements of the Democratic Party, and they want to spank the establishment. I think they're looking for their moral foundation as a contrast to somebody like Trump, and they're finding it in socialism, which makes sense to me, Michael. It's a more consistent iteration of what they've already been preaching. I mean, what does this Angie Nixon want? She wants Medicare for all, right? Yeah. She wants a minimum wage. Guys, $25 minimum wage. Now, why do they stop there, Michael? Why do they stop at $20, $25? Why not make it $100 if you think it makes people more prosperous? These are. What was her other policy? I forget what her other policy was, but that's her main stuff. Medicare for all and a much more expansive minimum wage. We know that the minimum wage in California unemployed about 18,000 people, right? They put it up to $28 for franchise businesses, and immediately it made people unemployable. A $25 minimum wage is going to add to the youth unemployment, which we're already experiencing now, Michael. And part of the reason, I think, is this minimum wage. These kids go
about that yesterday.
Yeah. These kids go and they apply. I just read about one who applied for 1,100 positions. None of them answered her. And a lot of them said, we're looking for people with experience. Why? They don't want to waste time training somebody with no experience for $25 an hour. That is a waste of your time and effort. You got to bring somebody in who already knows what they're doing. You've just priced inexperienced people out of the job market. You just have. And that's exactly what it's going to do. You're going to price people whose labor is not worth $25 out of the job market. You're going to create unemployment. It's going to be great for the people who are earning that. Not so good for the people who are buying their products, Michael, because that price is just going to get displaced onto us in the form of higher costs for us and higher prices for us. But this is what they want. And Medicare for all. Michael, I think in every society where there is socialized medicine, there is a private tier. There's always a private tier because the socialized part absolutely sucks. And if you need really good service, you go to the private tier. I'll give you a perfect example. And I've said it before on air. You can shut me up if you think if I'm repeating myself too much. But I had a heart.
I like it.
I had a heart condition, right? And it was set off when I was in Paris. And I had to go through, first I went through the public tier hospital. They just dropped me off at the first hospital there was. And they did an EKG, which the guy misdiagnosed, by the way. And then they put me in a room with 50 other people who were all had different ailments, God knows what. And I was set against a wall with a nurse's station in the center and left there for hours. Trying to, in the whole time asking people, can I go home? I mean, and they were looking at me with deep hostility, Michael. Deep hostility because I was asking questions about my well-being. After 8 hours, I was finally able to get out of there. I got billed 3 times for that. And the bill, amounted to about €500. I had another episode. And this time, instead of going to that hospital, I went to the American Hospital in Paris, which is a for-profit hospital. I was seen in 10 minutes. I got properly diagnosed with atrial fibrillation and received medication for that immediately. Within an hour, I was out. I paid €300, $200 less than I had to pay the socialized system.
So what is the lesson here? The lesson is if you're going to be in a socialist country, it's good to be wealthy.
No, it's good to do. It's good. Well, Michael,
what are you stuttering? It's okay to be wealthy. We're capitalists here.
I know, but unfortunately, when you're in a socialized country, you have to be wealthy there as well. If you want to fly above the system, you have to do the private tier so that you can get treatment immediately. I know people in the UK who do that. They have private tier insurance. They go to private doctors. They stay out of the NHS. People in the NHS are dying. I mean, literally dying. And they will cling to that thing, Michael, like it's a life preserver, even though it's killing them.
So my friend Danny is now in the audience, and I'm trying to get him to come to our Capitalist Party convention. And I tried to sweeten the pot a little bit because remember, he's the one that wants to fight you as Paul Bennett. So I've told him, well, maybe we could get Mark to do that. If you come to the convention, we'll have Mark dress up as Paul Bennett, and you guys can have a rumble.
Yeah, but then I got to put on a funky wig, and he could pull the wig over my eyes. Hey, but yeah, Daniel, there's a great MMA gym there, man, and my buddies are all there, and we're gonna be rolling, I'm sure, when I'm there. So bring your rash guard, buddy, and we'll hit the mat.
Rash guard, oh my Lord.
He's gonna need it. He's gonna need his rash guard.
So Nicole Hingle gives us $5 for my smile. Thank you. Daniel says he has dad issues, which he says. So he says there's no offense. So it's funny because one day Danny and I were waiting. We grew up together, so we're waiting for a third friend of ours, and this friend cancels on us. He doesn't show up. So we were joking afterwards, and we said, geez, Phil treats us just like our dads did. He doesn't show up when he's supposed to.
That's the way my stepdad was, and the way my dad was too. So I feel you.
Well, maybe you hate Paul Bennett as well.
I can't hate Paul Bennett because I had to play Paul Bennett. So I had to look at him from a completely different perspective. Do you want to know my perspective?
I know your perspective. I mean, I know your thing. This is very weird. And I would like to, don't give too much away because I just had an idea. I want to interview you on the Michael Liebowitz show about this method of yours. But so tease it. So what you could do right now is tease it a little bit.
Okay. People say, I don't know if this, well, Mike, I might give away the farm.
You just give away a little because we're not going to go through.
Shark.
No, we're not going to go through each character. I actually would like to do some with you, and we go through each character.
Sure, yeah. So, Michael, ask me if I play a villain.
I know you've played a villain. Why do I have to ask?
Ask me.
No, you're going to say no. Do you play a villain?
I never play a villain.
Yes.
I'm the hero. I always play the hero. I don't know anybody. Like, for example, Meryl Streep was asked, oh my God, you play these characters, these bitchy characters so well. How do you do it? She's like, I'm not a bitch. I'm assertive. There you go.
So what Mark, I wanted you to give away a little more. You're an actor. You should be better at this, but it's okay because I'm here.
And Akira Felix, yes, Lucifer was a good guy, and I have a whole narrative that I could talk about, but I'll save it for the Michael Liebowitz.
Yes. So Mark cannot play a character well unless he can in some ways identify with that character as a hero. So he has to look for the heroic elements within that character. Did I say that right, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said it much more succinctly. I play a hero.
No, you hinted. I needed an explicit
because you said basically.
No, I didn't want you to give it away. I don't want you to give away why Lucifer was good or why Paul Bennett was good. It wasn't about don't say anything. Obviously, we want them to know something so that they tune in.
Method man. Yeah, sure. Yeah, check that. Yeah, that's it. I find the heroic characteristics in what the character is going for. But Michael, I think I'm also going with human psychology, right? I think for the most part, people who have to look at themselves in a good light. They have to see people.
Listen, I come across, sorry to interrupt, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I just want to tell you.
Real pathotypes.
I come across people frequently on social media who are just gaga about what a great actor you are. And it's so funny when they disagree with your politics, how disillusioned they become. They're like, I'm so disappointed. I'm so disappointed. I love this guy as
my God, he doesn't agree with everything that I believe. Oh, God. If I did that with actors, man, there wouldn't be a single actor that I would enjoy. I'm able to separate their political positions, and some of them have pretty fucking harmful political ideas, man.
Yeah, look, Larry David is hilarious. He's a bleeding heart liberal. I don't care.
Leftist. He's not a liberal.
Yeah.
He's a leftist.
Oh, Jesus
He's a
Christ.
leftist.
Yeah, he's a leftist, and some other guy is going to come. Don't call them leftist.
Look, Mark Ruffalo actually wants us to go socialist. This is a guy who's worth, I don't know, $50 million. He's got a spread in New York that's like a 6,000 square foot penthouse in New York. Okay, if you want the society to go socialist, buddy, start giving away your salary and start getting paid what the lowest guy on the roster is getting paid, and maybe give up your home.
Listen, I know an atheistic Jew who lives over here and where I am, because it's me, that would be happy to accept his money if he's looking to spread the wealth around.
He's not. He's virtue signaling. But look, I love the guy's acting. The guy is if you haven't seen You Can Count on Me, which is I think when he burst on the scene, he was so amazing in that movie.
And he's a new member.
Thank you. Who is it?
Natalia.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you very much. Let's hope that 1 month
Natalia.
extends into many, many months.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, in perpetuity. I don't like Sean Penn's perspective, right? I mean, the guy loves Fidel Castro, but he's a fantastic actor. His political perspective is infantile. You know, he simply does not put the amount of thinking into his politics or philosophy that he does into his roles. And that's,
have you met him?
I've never met Sean Penn. I have.
Before we get to the next topic, I do want to ask you this. Who is the best actor you've ever met in person?
Oh, I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman was amazing. Jeff Bridges, I thought at the time that I was working with him, was an unsung genius, but I think now everybody knows he is. But if you actually watch the guy work, you would be amazed at how technical he is, how focused he is, and how spontaneous he is. To me, that's the great art of acting, right? You know everything that's going to happen, but you're able to treat it as if it's happening for the first time. And he could do pure acting moments, like when he passes out from the White Russians that are drugged at Jackie Treehorn's place. That's pure acting, because you're not really experiencing all that stuff, but he has to do it as if he is.
Yeah.
Pure acting, and he's able to make it real. He was really dissatisfied with every take. He was going back and looking at playback. He wasn't quite happy with it. Through him, by the way, I learned to look at playback after each scene, and it's actually very helpful. And I was like, just like, dude, it's amazing. What you're doing is great. He's like, really? I'm like, I love it. Because I could see it, from where I was, I had the objective point of view. He didn't. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I've worked with great. Jeff Goldblum, I think, is a real artist. I really love his work. I love his approach to work. He's obsessive. He's like a detective. When he gets a part, he pulls it apart like a forensic pathologist working on a crime scene until he's answered every question in his mind, every why or who or what or where. And then he goes on, and then he experiments with all kinds of different stuff. I practiced a play with him called, The Seminar. It was a Teresa Rebeck play. He did it. He toured around with it after Alan Rickman originated the part. He did it at the Mark Taper Forum. We helped him rehearse it, and then we saw him do it live. Aya Cash, who's in Vought Rising, actually was in that play with him. And every time he's supposed to kiss her, he would do it differently, and sometimes really weird, unfortunate shit that she just couldn't take. Like one time he licked her face instead of kissed her. And she's like, Jeff, that was so gross. He's like, yeah, but it was different, right? I love that. I love that he just he uses every performance as something that's not locked in, but it's fresh and new. It's a rehearsal. He doesn't care what the people out there think. He's trying to find it in himself and trying to play and keep it fresh. That's cool. That's an artist from my perspective.
Okay, so I'm very disappointed you didn't name Hulk Hogan.
Terry was surprisingly good. Even though
Did you call him Terry?
Yeah. I'm not going to call him Hulk. His name is Terry.
Oh, no, dude. He's always in character. You got to call him Hulk.
No, he wasn't.
I'm sorry. He should be. Then he failed as a kayfaber.
All right.
Okay. Look, tell us about this Disney Fights Back, this Disney lawsuit.
All right, so the FCC and their chairman, Mr. Carr, who reminds me of Minnow. Remember how Ayn Rand was always going after Minnow because he was such a he took his role as the FCC chairman so seriously that he was imposing these puritanical rules on networks left and right. Well, this guy Carr is sort of the same way, except he's imposing Trump's whims on these networks like ABC, that has already paid $16 million to Trump in a defamation lawsuit they settled with him. That just goes to show you when you feed the bear comes after you even more. And so they're going after about 7 or 8 affiliates of ABC. They've demanded that they apply for their permits early, and they are under investigation for DEI violations, which are apparently in violation of who they hire is apparently the business of the federal government. The federal government doesn't like that they hire according to DEI stipulations, and so they're going after them in an investigation for that. And ABC's fighting back. Good for you, Disney ABC. I mean, full disclosure, Michael, ABC is not necessarily a great network to work for. They tried to rip me off multiple times. They sort of suck in a lot of ways. I actually asked to be killed off of one of their shows. And
What
yet,
show?
Quantico. And
Oh,
yet,
wow, yeah.
what they are doing now is exemplary. I love that they are standing up against the FCC. I hope they win this fucking fight, because in a capitalist society, the FCC wouldn't exist. Guess who would be the editor of content of your programs in a capitalist society? That's right. You. I wouldn't for everybody, but you'd be editing the content of your own programs, folks. And there might be private organizations that would come up with rating scales and standards that you could peruse for yourself and say, well, this meets my standards, so I'm going to patronize these stations and these shows. But it would not be federally mandated. There would not be these licenses that are held over affiliate stations' heads and compelling them to do what the regime wants them to do. What?
It's you hit on something that I did not know until this morning, because I always hear that Trump is threatening to take the networks' licenses, but the networks don't actually have licenses.
Right.
Local affiliates are the ones that have the licenses. But in the case of ABC, they actually own 8 of their affiliates.
Right.
And so that's what they're fighting about. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we were in a situation and people are defending it, this hasn't happened. So what it is the federal government, the FCC, is telling ABC they have to renew their license early. I don't think they come up for renewal until what, 2032?
Yeah, 2028, 2032, so both of those.
Yeah, they come up for renewal for these licenses, and the FCC is saying no, they want them to go for renewal now. Early renewal hasn't happened in 50 years. And it's obviously because ABC has pissed off Trump, whether it be The View, it be Charlie Kirk. I mean, not Charlie Kirk, I'm sorry. What's his name there? Because he told jokes about Charlie Kirk. Jimmy Kimmel. And the fact that they didn't play his little speech that he gave that night, and he's very upset about all this. So, of course, that justifies the federal government going after them.
Yeah, and Greg is right here. It would be nice if ABC could fight back based on the existence of FCC being a violation of the First Amendment. Yes, it would, but they're not going to go that fundamental. They're just going to go in, a practical direction, because they don't disagree fundamentally with a regulatory's body's capacity to tell them what to do. We do, and let's hope that becomes the dominant philosophy out there in the world, Michael, because the FCC was started as a way of hobbling political opponents, and now we're seeing it being used that way again.
Right. Now, it's interesting because if you look at what we've got today, we talked about the Democratic Socialists. Socialists, of course, want government control or collective control of property, collective ownership, right? And then you look at this, the FCC telling private companies what they can and can't put on their various networks or channels. The Republican data centers, again, the situation where you're going to have the government telling people what they can and can't do with their own property. And it's interesting to me, Mark, because I'm sure a lot of people think, well, who cares? These are all very wealthy people. I don't give a shit. But as part of my job as a real estate title searcher, I have to look at the permits that people take out for their homes. And for their homes, like people will get zoning violations for letting somebody live or for, renting out their basement. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like they rent out the basement or they, whatever, want to build an addition and you got to get a permit for everything. It's your freaking house. It's so ridiculous. It's so unjust. It's so un-American. So it's not that you're just fighting for the freedom for, Amazon to build data centers or ABC to do what they want with their programming. We're talking about fundamental property rights. And by the way, Donald Trump favored the government in the Kelo decision where they took private property for private commercial development. So this is not somebody that respects property rights. Not that the other side does either, of course. I mean, the Democrats, that's, the Democratic Socialists are lining up with them.
Yeah, it's awful, man. You got statists to the left of you, statists to the right of you, and the real alternative out there, if you want to be free, is the American Capitalist Party. Michael, I want to hit this last story because we only have a couple more minutes, but it's come to the attention of media that Putin and Russia has been supplying Iran with drone technology and bullets and small arms. Michael, anybody who knew anything about this region understood that. What did I say? Do you remember what I said like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago? That I said that if we wanted to start hitting dual use targets, one of the places we should hit are the ports on the Caspian Sea, because that's where Russia is able to supply Iran with TNT and other stuff that enables the IRGC to continue fighting. Did Trump listen to me? No, because
you
those
said
ports
all that?
on the I did. I said,
did you actually say all that?
Yeah, I did say they should hit the ports in the Caspian Sea because that's where the Russians are supplying them from. And that's what they have to do.
That's why you should be tuning in.
That's right. Well,
people should tune into this show for that type of analysis.
You should. I've been, so Michael, they haven't done it. So now those ports are open. And so now TNT and drones, sophisticated drones, which have been modified, by the way, by the Russians, who are trying to gain expertise from their experience with the Ukrainians. And now that expertise is going to flow to the Iranians, and they're going to use that technology against international shipping in the Straits of Hormuz and likely Americans who are stationed abroad. That sucks. And I don't know that Trump will attack the Caspian Sea ports because why? His pal Putin would have something to say about that. What do you think about this fucking latest wrinkle in this debacle that is the war in Iran?
Well, just to be clear, Russia denies it. They said that they don't respond to fake news. So they've picked up our political vocabulary now because they literally use the term fake news. I think it's probably true, and I think that it's just another illustration of when you go to war, you don't get to control the results of the war. It's that simple. I mean, I'm not diminishing your point about what they should have done. It's just that when you're at war, things pop up, and you need to be ready to deal with them. So now what do? Do you threaten Russia? Because they're not going to give a shit about Trump's threats, especially given they see that he doesn't really act them out.
Well, if you have no policy either, Michael, if you have no end game, of course, things are going to be more unpredictable for you because you're just responding to each crisis as it comes, as opposed to having a holistic picture, a real context from which to act. And yes, you can take on those Iranian ports and completely obliterate them. And that has nothing to do with attacking Russian property. It's not like you're starting a war with Russia. You're just taking out Iran's ability to intercept equipment from Russia. So I think that's completely valid. I think he should have done it months ago. And it's likely this debacle could have been over if he actually stuck to her, or he never really had a regime change idea, sort of in the beginning, but it shifted to that no nuclear power, no nuclear weapons nonsense that he keeps parroting, trumpeting around.
So yesterday, Mark, you asked if Democrats have to deify their presidential candidates. So we've got three answers here. Two of them were to the question that I asked the day before. So Greg Doherty says, day late on death penalty. He's against it. He says government is too incompetent for irreversible penalties and it does not improve safety for the innocent, so no point. Weirdo Manification says, I'm pro death penalty for tyrants only. If a current or former official of a state successfully ordered the murder of an innocent person, then there is undeniable proof that they were the murderer. Otherwise, I am against. I used to be pro death penalty for serial killers, but I have become a bit skeptical of even that. It's conceivably possible to frame a person as a serial killer. And Akira Felix answered your question. He says, they don't have to, but they definitely do. I heard hope and change so much that by the time he said you didn't build that, I was wondering if any of the people repeating those slogans understood what it meant.
Amen.
Okay. Capitalist thought of the day. I'll do it today.
Oh.
Okay? I'm going to step up.
Do it, baby.
So this show is called The Capitalist Corner. On this show, we promote capitalism. Capitalism is the system of individual rights, including property rights. Property rights are of the utmost importance because without rights over your property, your other rights are irrelevant. You are the one who worked to buy your property. You are the one who toiled. You are the one who thought. You are the one who put forth effort. You are the one who dedicated yourself to obtaining your property at the expense of other things that you could have been doing. This property is yours, and you should be able to do with it what you want. The government has no business telling you what you can or cannot do with or on your property so long as you are not violating the rights of anybody else, and these rights are objective. They are not arbitrary or subject to the whim of government officials or busybodies or those who vote for them in order to control you. Support capitalism, support private property, and support it wherever it is threatened. All right, Mark, can you ask the question today? I think I've done enough.
Yes, I also want to remind people that the American Capitalist Party National Convention will be in Pittsburgh on September 19th and 20th. Please join us and be a part of the change, folks. My question for you today is, do you think the Republicans are going to lose the House in this election? Now, it was a foregone conclusion at one time that this was going to happen as Trump's popularity spirals downward. Just what is it now, 33%? I mean, it's coming to his base. It's getting right to the heart of just the MAGA true believers, and everybody else is jumping ship. But now that the Democratic Socialists are starting to win these elections now in Florida, do you think they're going to have statewide appeal? Or are you thinking, as the Republicans are, this is a great opportunity? It looked like there was going to be a blowout in November, but now that the socialists are rising, it's too extreme for the American population, and they simply are not going to do it. I don't know, Michael. If they do win, it bodes badly for the United States of America. And they've won in 250 statewide elections, folks. They occupy 250 offices right now, and the mayorships of a couple of cities. So let me know what you think there. Answer that question on YouTube. Please remember to like and subscribe to this channel. We need to get these ideas out there in the world. Michael, I will be here tomorrow, just so you know, even though I'm going to be working nights on this little shoot. So that means Friday is going to be iffy. If I'm going to bed at 6 in the morning, I'm probably going to try to stay in bed. I don't know, or I might if I'm getting off of work at 6 in the morning, just read, go straight through, and just do the show, and then not do any jujitsu or training or anything.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I'm somebody that doesn't get much sleep. Last night I had what might have been my worst night's sleep.
Really?
But you know what I did? Yeah, I didn't say, "Oh, dude, I need some sleep. Let me rest. I'm tired." No, none of that. No, I'm here.
All right, so we've just established that Michael is the stud of the two of us. I'm the pussy. I do try to prioritize sleep when I can. I have had a hard time sleeping lately too, and that it sucks, man. Especially when you wear and tear your body like I do.
Oh
You
boy.
probably do too, but I mean, wrestling every day and training, it's just like when you're 61, it takes a
It's
toll.
sick.
You need your fucking sleep. Anyway, guys, you have 23 hours to check your premises. This is what all smart people do. I expect you to come here revved up, active minded tomorrow and ready to take on the frickin' day. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.